There is a level where you have seen something, you're not seeing it now, and you're describing what you saw. And then there is a level where you're repeating what somebody told you. So when you're repeating what somebody told you, you don't have the real thing at all. You only have a ha'ora. So clearly you can't give an object, you don't have a real thing. But if you have seen it, then you have the real thing. But it's also not, maybe I don't want to go into this, but if you're looking at it right now, you are actually experiencing it right now. Why can't you give him the whole thing? And the answer is because Hashpos HaSeichel, the meaning of Hashpos HaSeichel is ha'ora. Not that there isn't anything to give, there is a real thing to give, but you can't.
You can't.
Yeah. And the proof of it, and the proof of it is in the fact that there cannot be an mitzvah chadosh. You cannot make him understand. That shows that you cannot really give him the answer. Even if you're looking at it. And when you're looking at it, you're really presenting it in a live way. Because you're currently experiencing it. It's a very big difference whether you hear it from somebody who heard about it, or somebody who saw it, or somebody who's seeing it now. It's a totally different experience. Yet, it is only how. All right. All right, gentlemen. We will start from 3 lines from the bottom on page Ches. Let's see 1 second. 3 lines from the bottom on page Ches. We are coming to the very end of this discussion of Dibur, of the power of Dibur. That ultimately we say that Dibur is mamshich, draws the Etzem HaSeichel much deeper and much more to the essence than what can possibly be, really can be understood and obtained in machshava. Even though one actually delves into the seichel and try and understands it, and yet it doesn't compare to what comes out in Dibur. In Dibur itself, there are also 2 stages. There's a stage where one prepares to speak, and the moment before he speaks, he's ready to speak it, and he knows what he's going to say. And yet, then also it's only the ha'ora from seichel, even though he's prepared to say it. And the fact that he's prepared to say it means that he has a clear view of what he wants to say. You can't say vague things and then you say nothing. You have organized and you know exactly what you're going to say. As clear as that is, it's still only ha'ora of seichel. It's still not the etzem. At the time when he's actually, this is what we say, omom, this is what we're up to. Omnom, but however, when these letters are pronounced, in actual fact, when he actually expresses it, at the moment when he actually says this dvar seichel, not when he's preparing for the dvar seichel, to say it. But when he actually says it, oz, then poyalim etzem ha'oisius. The very letters themselves, the fact that the seichel is now sounded, put into words of dibur, they have the effect lahamshir gam bechinas ha'oir, to draw there also, in addition to that, to the idea that is being said, also bechinas ha'oir hapnimi v'ha'atzmi, the deeper and the essential. We discussed Monday the union of etzem, if you remember, shel hakoyach hamaski. the atzmi of the koyach hamaskil. And that happens at the time when he speaks. Someone asked me, I think here, did you ask me about writing? Whether writing has the same effect you had right? There is an expression that says, oisios machkimois. Oisios make you wise. Like if you have an idea, and you know the idea clearly, and there is a difficulty in it, and you want to understand it better. If you look at it in a written form, just look at it, it draws out your chokhmah more, and you're able to understand it, to get into its depth. Better than if you think into it, even if you know it clearly. Even if you repeat the words in your own mind as you remember them. The very presence of Oisius draws the seichel. Because the fact that the seichel is in the Oisius shows that there is an etzem to the seichel. And this is the etzem that's drawn in there.
Can I ask a question on this statement?
Yeah.
Before we said that through speech you're bringing down to the Oisius the previous Eimek Seichel. Here it says Koyach HaMaskil. And just a little bit on the page, you said that even Koyach HaMaskil is just a Hamshacha from the Nefesh.
Right. The Koyach HaMaskil, the Koyach HaMaskil itself is only Hamshach. But the etzem of the Koyach HaMaskil, this is like the source of the Koyach HaMaskil.
And that's the previous Eimek Seichel.
And like the previous Eimek Seichel. We also discussed this in a motion, if you remember. This was a very important discussion we had when we discussed this Seichel Anushi and the fact of him being a human being.
The recognition of being a human being and simply being a human being.
And being a human being, the recognition of being a human being, and the Seichel that results from that recognition. You remember that? You should refer back to it, because that kind of encapsulated the idea. And the Pnimius und Etzem, Koyach HaMaskil, this is a statement of the fact that he is a human being. Not that he knows that he's a human being, but that he is a human being. This is a moshel on the inyan of the Nefesh. This is evidenced in the fact that when you tell a child who's never learned, a small child, you tell a child something that is obvious, that is obviously correct, say this is the way to do it, the child readily relates to it and accepts it very simply. Not because it has developed seichel, but because it has that human quality. And he readily sees, yes, that's the way to do it. No. He would resist. He would not be able to relate to it. He would know that he's going wild. When children go wild, they know that they're going wild. V'hainu, okay, which means sheho oisiyos, the oisiyos themselves. What is it?
No, I'm just thinking about this.
Okay, The oisios themselves. Here is where we see that the oisios themselves, machrichim, they force. The oisios, not the seichel, not your understanding of it, but just the oisios themselves force out shagam bechinas pnimius ve'atzmus ha'oir. That even the bechina of pnimius ve'atzmus ha'oir, the etzem of the oir, shalamai lo mebechinas gilui, that aspect of the oir that is lamailo mebechinas gilui, that is above the whole inyan of gil, of expression. It can be expressed. It's the etzem. You can't express the etzem. You can express only an idea coming from the etzem. So therefore, this is the Ma'alim Chinas Gilu. Yum Shach v'Yizgala Gamkin, and yet it's drawn in, and that becomes Nizgala. But when it becomes Nizgala, what kind of Gilu is it? If this is Lamaila Migilu, what does it mean it becomes Nizgala? This is an important thing to understand. What kind of Gilu is this? There are two types of Giluyim in Seichel. There's a Giluy in Seichel that even though it's a right Seichel, and I see its rightness, its correctness, still it is in the realm of being debatable. In other words, there are two ways to look at it, or multiple ways of looking at it. But what you're saying makes sense. This seems to be the right way to look at it. So it is basically in a realm of seichel. That's called seichel, Gilui HaSeichel. Gilui HaSeichel means that it's clearly not the absolute. It's not the only way to say it. But nevertheless, it is right. This is generally speaking, this is the realm of Gilui. That which is L'mayla min HaGilui, which means this is the Etzem. In the Etzem, there are no multiple ways. There is no possibility of anything else. There is only one truth at the Etzem level. It's an obvious truth. It's the only way it could be. It couldn't be any other way. It couldn't be expressed any other way. It couldn't be looked at any other way. That's when the Etzem. When it comes with Dibur, then there is a sense of that Seichel, that aspect of the Seichel beyond being debatable. You sense a certain truth that is not a Seichel level truth, in other words, limited to Seichel, which is always debatable. But you sense the truth itself. And this is drawn in Oisius. There are many illustrations of this, but the classical one that's brought down many times. The Gemara says that there was a machloikis, there was a Rav, the Amoira Rav in the Gemara said a certain halach, and his Talmud asked him a kasha on this halach, and the Gemara says Shosik Rav. Rav remained quiet. He didn't respond. And the reason he didn't respond is because he couldn't formulate an answer. Shosik. He couldn't formulate an answer to him. He couldn't respond. He couldn't explain to him any difference. He asked him, what is the difference between this and this? He couldn't answer. And Shosik Rav. which would seem to be if Shosik Rav, that Rav was refuted. He's saying the halacha, but it doesn't make sense. But the poem in halacha, we say that Rav stood by his opinion anyway. Not only did Rav stay by his opinion, but the halacha in Shulchan Aruch is like the way he says, the way he was refuted. What's the pshat? The pshat is that there's a certain level of seichel that is not debatable. The etzem ha-seichel. So you can ask a kasha. And on a debatable level, I can't explain it to you. On the gila level, I can explain it to you. But that's the way it is. This meant that you have gilui, that atzmus oyer shelamayla mebchinas gilui v'yumshach v'yizgala gamki. How does it mizgala? It's mizgala in the way it is in atzm. What?
That was a gilui, this level by Rav.
By Rav.
It would be quiet. That was the gilui.
No, the gilui was when he made the statement.
Okay.
And then you couldn't debate it, but that's the way it is. Das meint that seichel coming from etzem ha-seichel. It's a very broad subject, but just to put it in a nutshell, seichel is a koyach ha-nefesh. And this is the nefesh. The oinig and rotzen of the nefesh is higher than seichel, even the etzem ha-seichel. Okay. V'lochein, and thus alidei hadibur dafko, only as a result of dibur, magia, he reaches masik, and he connects, he captures bechinas amkos ha-seichel, the depth of the seichel. Ma shalahoya masik ze alidei hoyim b'machshava lavad, that which he could never have grasped through the process of iyun and machshava, of deep thought. V'chein ba'aveda b'tfila. The same thing is true in aveda, which is principally the aveda of tefillah. So there too, alidei hadibur de teves atfilah, by pronouncing the words of tefillah, meir benafshoi, then he brings the illumination to his soul, bechinas pnimius hakavona, the innermost intent in these words, the bechinas ho'ir ho'atzmi de ein sof. That is representing the oil atzmi of Ein Sof. I'll come back to this in a minute. V'nase his poilus benafshoi, and that has an effect, an arousal in his nefesh. L'maylo mehaseichel v'hahazbonanus hakoidems. Higher, much higher than the seichel and the hisboyonus that preceded it. this inyan that in Tefillah there is the oir of pnimis hakavono v'chinas oir ho'atzmi de insof. This is essentially he connected specifically to Tefillah, because in Tefillah one is able, the whole idea of Tefillah is to connect to Ein Sof, to connect to Hashem Himself. Not just to know it and to understand like in Oiden Torah, but to connect to neighbors, to Hashem Himself. And this is why in Tefillah there is this Oir Atzmi de Ein Sof, where you recognize the inyan of Ein Sof coming through these Oisias at Tefillah. Which we started yesterday a little bit discussing, but the Nakuda is evident in the fact that in Tefillah you're not seeking to understand the world, you're seeking to find the Hashem Himself represented in the world. That's what it means. We ask Him to say. Okay, the Hainu. And that is Mishum the Shoyrash Hoisiyos. How does this in fact happen? Because at the Shoyrash of Oisiyos. Ulamaylo Mishoyrash Hamidois Ukmeshi Yizboy. As we will explain later on, that the Shoyrash of Oisiyos is higher than Shoyrash Hamidus in the Nefesh. That even though, which we always mentioned before, that even though that the Midos, this represents the Nefesh itself, the Koichas HaNefesh, and the Oisiyos seemingly are just Koichas, without any particular oil, particular light, and yet the Shoyrash Oisis is rooted higher in the Nefesh than the Midas. Okay. I'll skip the parentheses. It's going to take us off. 3 lines further. V'zehu, and this explains the inyan what we said on the onset when we went into this inyan, when we said Bino Yiseiro Nitno B'Yisha Yesen Mi B'Yish, because we said there, as we see that the inyan of birth is principally in the Isha. Why? Because the Isha has this inyan of Bina Yesera, extra quality of Bina. Yoisen mi beyish, more than the men. The Yodua, and this is how we got into explaining the Dibur. The Yodua, the Dibur Nikro Isha. Because Dibur is called Isha, which is Makabel, which is essentially just like Isha is a Makabel, a recipient from the Ish. Dibur is also at the level of a Makabel from the higher Koiches Machshava and Seichel and Midas. Ukmeshkosa Bezeir Shmeis, and so forth, Dav Beis Omedeis, and Dav Gimel Omedalav, Aposik Milvon and Kalo. V'nitno bino Yisera B'dibur, Yesen Mibchina Seichel and Midas. In Dibur, there is this extra quality of Bina, more than it is in Seichel Uminis. Shalidei Dibur Davke, where only specifically to Dibur Meir Bechinas Pnimis V'Yatzmius Oir HaSeichel V'Hamidus Kanal. Now the Pnimis V'Yatzmius of the Oir HaSeichel comes through Dibur more than the Midas themselves. Uma shekosu bino yiseiro. Why does it say bino yiseiro? Bino dafke? Actually, we're saying in general, seichel in general, and midas in general come through dibur. Why dafke bino yiseiro? Hu lefi shebino hu bechinas hakeach ha'his galus. The reason it's referred to as bina is because bina is this particular koyach that has to do with his galus, with expression. As is explained, the difference between chokhmah and bina. The chokhmah hu bechinas ayin, and bina bechinas yesh. Chokhmah has the quality of ayin, and bina has the quality of yesh. Briefly, this inyan is that chokhmah, as we discussed the other day, the inyan of chokhmah is the realization of an inyan while you are concentrating, while you're looking at it. In other words, you are rising up higher to take a peek at the inyan. And the reason that you're able to take a peek at the inyan at that time is because you stand completely in ayin, you stay completely in bittul. That's why you're able to see it. Bina is when this inyan comes down and becomes a yesh, and is able to be elaborated on and built up. I will discuss this, but this is brought down here in such a, parenthetical way. We'll have a chance to get deeper into this inyan later on. V'hainu, which means the chokhmah im heyoishu gamkin gilui, that even the chokhmah is also gilui. Mikol mokoim still hagilui hu bebchinas nekuda klolis levat. The gilui of chokhmah is only a general spark. Shenikra helam adayin, which is really still at the state of helam, because it's only the whole seichel is contained in an akuda, contained in one point. Ubechol mokum shemeir oir hachochma. Anywhere where there is the oir hachochma shining, in yonoi hu laseis meyesh ayin. The yin of oir hachochma is to show how the yesh is really ayin. Hainu sheyiyah b'bchinas heder hayispashtus. The yin of chokhmah is to contain things and to show that it's not a mitzias, and on the contrary, it's a yin from ayin. V'zehu inyan v'chakam bebina. Heder hayispashtus means that it's not finding full expression. It's all contained in one nakud. We will go to. I don't think we should go into this at this time. It can take a week just to learn these few lines, and it's not the place where it's being discussed. This is the pshat chakam bebina. You should have chokhmah in bina, which means shegam bechinas hayispashtus vehasogas ribei haprotim shebebina. That even though you're in bina and you have the full comprehension that is in bina, which contains a lot of protim and details, that yiyah bechinas ayin vehelam, that should come to the level of chokhmah, and it should be in a state of ayin. Hainu, which means sheyuchlal, that the whole hispashtus, and all of its ramifications should be contained and included, should be included in a single nakud, in a single point, shehi nakudas hatamtsis, which is known as nakudas hatamtsis. Nakudas hatamtsis briefly means this, that we know that seichel starts from chokhmah, and the chokhmah, it is only a nakuda, like a spark. Then it comes into bina, where you take this nakuda apart and you reveal everything that is contained in the nakuda. During this time that you reveal everything that's contained in the nakuda, the full power and brightness of that nakuda is lost. That was the full power, the truth, the essential truth that is revealed, that is expressed in chokhmah, is lost, because each point that you argue stands on its own. It loses the brightness of the revelation. Afterwards, when you go through the entire bina and you understand everything, then there is another process where you go and you contain and you correlate all the details that you have identified and show how all of this actually brings out one point. This is like coming back to the chokhmah from the bina. The reason that that's possible is because the bina originates from chokhmah. So it's possible then back to relate it back to the chokhmah. This is called nekudas atamtsis. Tamtsis means what the result, what you draw from the entire discussion, from the entire argument. So in chokhmah, even hakam bebina, even the chokhmah that comes after the bina, it's still just getting a nekuda, not getting the entire structure, the entire building. V'yiker hagilui hu bebina. But the principle of the gilui is in bina. Where is it really revealed? When it becomes a real entity, that is in bina. Shehu bebchinas his pashtus beribe protim. When bina, it broadens out beribe protim in many details. Ad sheyiye ha'oir musag u'muvan heitev, so that this oir is well comprehended. V'zehu inyan halvein b'chochmah. And this is the other expression, it's called halvein b'chochmah, which means you should understand the habina in chokhmah. Shekoyach habina poyel hagilui. The koyach habina can affect that there should be gilui gam bin kudas hachokhmah. Bina can draw out that even the nakuda of chokhmah shehilamaylo megilui, which is above gilui, the koyach hachokhmah who the koyach hachokhmah who liyos b'chinas ayin vehelam dafki. The union of chokhmah is that it should be in a state of helam. V'loi lovei begilui mamash, not to come down in true revelation. In a koyach habina poyel b'nekudas hachokhmah hepech. Bina has the effect to draw down the chokhmah, that the chokhmah should come down, which is contrary to its nature. Lovei b'bchinas gilui dafki. V'zehu gam kein inyan bina yisera nitna b'yisha. This is the inyan bina yisera in yisha b'chinas hadibur, that in dibur there is this quality of bina. Sheyesh bozeh koyach habina b'yoser, that in dibur there is this inyan of bina. Lahamshich u'legalo is gam b'chinas pnimis v'atzmos hachochma shalamaylo b'chinas gila legamri, that it's able to be mamshich the atzmos hachochma, that inyan which is above gilui, the hainu sheinem is galam mitzad atzmi, that which on its own does not reveal itself. Kiim alidei hadibur davke, and it gets revealed only when it's brought down, when it's expressed in dibur. Kanal shezeyin bina yisera sheyesh b'dibur. Okay, this last section, I couldn't get into this because that's not the central thing that's discussed in the Maimon. We'll get back to this. I just wanted to finish it. Okay. So essentially, I don't remember how long we're learning this, but quite some time. And we finished with Hashem this minor. And what I would like now, whenever you're ready, as I said the other day, I would like some feedback. I'd like each one of you, instead of giving you tests and all that, I think you're, graduated from that. I would like each one of you to prepare one Indian that was discussed here, definitively, now in some degree of depth, and explain it. Bring it out and tell us what it is. I'd like you to tell me ahead of time what Yeshua gave me his Indian, his choice. What was it again, Yeshua?
The neshama goes down to the body because it perceives the shorosh of the guf.
Right. How the shoyrosh, how it's the hechrech. The shoyrosh is right. So the shoyrosh haguf, it draws in the neshama now. Okay. So how should we do it? Should we do it? Today's Wednesday. Next Monday we're going to have another session. Should we do it on Monday, or should we let you one Monday for discussion and do it on Wednesday? Avram votes for Wednesday.
I don't want to argue with Avram.
You don't want to argue with Avram. Why?
That's what we have Gemara for.
What do you say? Okay. Levi Yitzchak? Huh? Will you prepare something? Okay. Monday, Mitchell, when we get together, you could ask questions. That's what we're doing Monday. Kind of a review based on your questions rather than a review. Huh?
Why the oisius of the dibur they force the seichel higher than that's the topic of the whole mind.
It's all right, but that's just one aspect. We discussed so many things in there. Chochmah, Bina. I mean, there's a central topics, and then there are machshava. There are many detailed topics. It doesn't have to take the central topic. Okay, fine. So you want to talk about Dibur, he's going to talk about Neshama and Guf, you're going to talk about Seichel and Dibur. Fine.
I would just say, I reviewed so far, so maybe I would say, I would just take, I would change something. No, it's about the Chabad being essence of the person.
The what?
Chabad is being essence of the person.
Okay.
I reviewed, I don't know if I'm going to do it for sure. Someone reviews the whole thing first and see what.
Okay. Levi Yitzchak, you have a preference, an Indian? Not yet? Yes, sir. What? You want to talk about the Rebbe Rashav? You prepare something, you look it over. Okay? I mean, of course, there is a central point here, but there is the whole lineage how seichel is nimshach from the nefesh, like you were saying. Yeah. Yeah.
I suggest that you should just discuss it in a class, just to go over it a few times and, talk about it,
I understand. The thing is like this. If you're going to start discussing the singing, it's going to take us as long as it took us to learn it. What's wrong with that? There is always a mile to go learn more. It elevates, it becomes clearer. Just wonder that we should review a little bit. Of course, we can stay on the same minor indefinitely, but it's not a good idea. Even the way we did was a lot, more than usual, but I just wondered if we should get into it. But you have to go on. But Monday, Mitzvah, we can discuss individual questions and topics. Was sagst du? Afterwards, the next Maimon. This is it's called a hemshech. A hemshech means one member prepares for the next. Well, this last page, we didn't do justice to it, but we have to come to some kind of a end. Chochmah and Bina, even though it's not new, we discussed Chochmah in the past. Just don't want to. If somebody could explain to me what we discussed about Chochmah and Bina before, that would be a good topic. I would be very satisfied. What, Dexter?
I already made my choice. I don't want to.
No, wait, leave here.
He who hesitates.
Huh?
He who hesitates is lost.
Okay.
Every person is obligated to make an effort that he will have a very fancy garments from the Shabbos according to his ability.
Alrighty.